Good?
Good.
Rolling?
Yeah, we're rolling.
Oh, all right. How we doing? Good. How's everybody doing? Good. All right. That's good. There we go.
Line.
Nice to see everybody today. Thanks for coming by. I appreciate it. I think we're going to kind of just have a little combo, chit-chat a little bit, and then maybe open up to any questions that anybody has. My name is Matt Patricia. I'm the head coach for the Detroit Lions. Went to school here, graduated in '96. I'm an aeronautical engineer, was aeronautical engineer. That's what I studied, and then got into the engineering world, did that for a little while, and then changed gears, got into coaching, and been fortunate and blessed enough to have a really good career so far in the NFL. So appreciate you guys coming out and spending some time. Haven't been back to campus in a long time. It's probably been about 11 years. So it's cool to be back, cool to see everything, and I can appreciate what you guys are doing definitely every single day. So I have a real appreciation for the military. Like you said, my grandfathers, I remember growing up, my grandparents, my two grandfathers were in World War II, and kind of growing up and listening to those stories of what they went through. And one of my grandfathers actually lived with us for a little while, and he was a Marine in World War II and went through some pretty amazing stuff. And I've just always kind of had that sort of attraction to the military and appreciation for what they do. Through my school years here at RPI, a lot of my friends were in the ROTC programs and have gone off to great military careers. And I just think it's something that's really important for us all to continually acknowledge and recognize the sacrifices that they make for us, so that we can go out and do what we do every single day. And I've really incorporated that into my coaching profession. And a couple of guys that I've coached through the years have gone into the military, had some great careers. One of my fraternity brothers, when I was here at RPI, gave his life in a couple of the conflicts and the battles that we've had, and that stuff is one of those constant reminders to us that we're all just so lucky to be able to do what we do, especially every single day without that worry that there are people overseas that are trying to protect our freedom and protect our way of life. So I've incorporated that into everything I do daily basis, even with the Detroit Lions, from the Patriots to the Lions, and trying to make sure that we always acknowledge and recognize that. So obviously having the opportunity to come back and be a guest speaker at an event like that it's really a privilege for me. So and that brings me back here home to RPI to be able to see everybody else. So it was real important to me to do that. For me, grew up in a household, both my parents were teachers, and my dad was actually a wrestling coach, and some of the influence that I saw him have kind of in the kids that were in my school, and the time he took to really spend time with those guys, and the influence he said he had with those guys. I always had kids come up to me even when I was little and be like, oh, hey, your dad was really great, he made a big difference in my life, he helped me with this, and I just always remember those impactful conversations. When I came to school at RPI, played football, played 4 years of football, and then I stayed 1 year and coached, and as I got out, did engineering. I just missed that aspect. I missed the game. I missed the team part of it. But really, I missed being able to be impactful in kids' lives, or in college students' lives from that aspect of it. So I think it is more about just coaching the sport. It's about teaching about life, especially for myself, being between the ages of a young male between 17 and 21, and you're in college, you're trying to figure it out, or you're a student athlete in general trying to figure out sports, school, being away from home the first time. You lean on your coaches so much to help guide you through that I was really that was my big draw to come back into coaching, was just to be able to be that sort of support teacher and mentor for young students. Some of the things you learn at RPI and some of the things that you have to go through, and you guys all know this already, those are the traits, those are the characteristics you're going to bring with yourself into the real world. The academic part of it is great, and you need it. It's the background for whatever area you're in. But the time management, the problem solving, the ability to understand that, okay, I'm going to have to pull an all-nighter this week to get my work done. To be able to make sure that I can play in the game this weekend. It's unheard of, but those life lessons that you learned of how to work hard, task at hand, work ethic, all those things, those are your edges, those are your niches when you get out of RPI. That's going to give you the advantage over somebody else that's coming from another school, someone else that's coming from a place where you didn't have to work that hard, or you didn't have the hands-on experience, you didn't have that much that you were, that pressure that you were put under here to succeed. And I think those are the things that have been able to propel me really through engineering and then into, to football. I was saying earlier, people laugh all the time, pulling an all-nighter every single week in order to be able to study for those exams, get up, take your test, you're exhausted, go to practice, go back and do it the next day. I sleep on my floor at the office. I'm the head coach for the Lions, but at midnight when the work is done or 1 o'clock in the morning, I'm going to lay on my floor, I'm going to crash for a couple hours, I'm going to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and go back to work because we have to get ready for practice. You guys are doing that, I know you are, and you're studying and you're like sitting there going, okay, it's 2 o'clock in the morning, how much can I really do? Let me give me a 2-hour break, and then you're gonna wake up and you're going for the rest of the day. And those are the things that work ethic, that drive, that, just constant sort of understanding of how to succeed and how to, make sure that you get it done, because there's no other choice. There's no other choice for you guys. The schoolwork's got to get done. The test is going to have to be right. You're going to have to go to practice. There's no other option. RPI is not a place where you're going to walk in and be like, yeah, I really didn't get my work done here today. This project's not done because, I was tired. There's no tolerance for that. The professors are going to look at you sideways. And that's how it is in the real world. The real world is not a case where they're going to be like, hey, it's okay, get that project done next week. They're going to be like, yeah, get out. And that's really what it is. And that's the truth. Really, Coach King is the reason that, in the end that I came to school here. And I think the environment that he was creating with the football team at the time, trying to really turn the program around. RPI football was not very good for a long time. We came into a situation where you'd hear about, the glory days when they used to be good. Then there was a couple good years, in the 80s, and then the late 80s, 90s, we were trying to turn it around at that point. And I think the culture, the atmosphere, everything that he was about, really for us was family, and going to college was my first time away from home, like it is for most people. And, here you are, you're a freshman athlete. And so you're in, practice sessions twice a day. You're in the dorm. No one else is in the dorm. You're, with your roommate. You're going, what's going on? 2 weeks later, the rest of the students finally show up, and you walk into that Calc 2 class day one of freshman year, and there's a person sitting in the front row with his hand up. And professor walks in, this is day one, 30 seconds into the class. Professor walks in and is like, do you have a question? And he's like, yeah, I read the text already and I found a bunch of mistakes in the book and we need to talk about that before we start the class. I'm standing up going, what am I doing here? Like, I don't even know we had a book. Like, so I think that part of the family atmosphere, the structure, everything that Coach King built when I got here to help calm those situations down. We're like, okay, you don't need to go home. You're going to be fine. We'll get you squared away. Just give it some time and give you the support. That was really important for me. And again, like I said, that was one of the draws. I thought initially when I went back into coaching, having my dad as kind of my, role model, my hero, in the influence that he was making in kids' lives at the high school level, I really thought that Coach King and his staff did that at the collegiate level, and that was really my draw. That's what I wanted to do, and one of the reasons that I left engineering and got into coaching at the college level. Started Division III, love Division III, love Division III football, love Division III athletes because, not only do they love the sport, but they love school, and everything about what they have to get done is just, it's so impressive to me. On a daily basis. Was blessed enough to go to Syracuse and then obviously go out to New England and work with Coach Belichick, which, that's a whole different experience in and of itself. Being raised in that system, having him put faith and really work into me, having that sort of one-on-one time with him to develop me as a coach, as a young coach, was invaluable. And that's really my responsibility now to do that to the young coaches that I have, or even while I was at New England, the younger coaches that I, raised in kind of through on the defensive side, Brian Flores, who's at Miami, and Pat Graham, who's at the Giants, and, all those guys that worked for me there, and to see them develop and grow, that's the best part of coaching. That's the best part about teaching is, when you make that switch from your first 6 months after you're done playing a sport saying, I could still do that, I could still do that, or I could make that block, or I could score that goal, to watching someone that you taught how to do something, achieve it, see the success in their eyes, and how happy they are, that's a whole different level. And that's, that's the part of it that when you're a mentor for the younger coaches or players, that's the part that you love. This is a blue-collar school. This is a hard-working, grinded-out sort of mentality school. And when you come here, the kids that are next to you in class, like, they have that same mentality. With that comes a lot of camaraderie, comes a lot of family atmosphere, and I think the staff and the people that work in the school have really, they help push that, they help emphasize that. So Coach King created that family atmosphere, but those assistant coaches, that were on that staff, they were the ones that you called, at 10 o'clock at night when you're like, I don't think I can do this project, I don't think I can go to practice tomorrow, like I'm done, like I need to go home, and they're like, get your butt back in the room, keep studying, you're fine, let's talk about it tomorrow. I would say campus-wide, we always had that support, whether, I don't even know what you call the buildings, CDC, whether it was, those, people in that area, or the counselors that were available to us, Anthony Ortolano, who was our trainer back in the day. He's retired now, but, he was a guy that was going to get you straight. It really didn't matter anywhere you went on campus. It really, if you had a problem, I just felt like everybody here was going to help, so from that aspect of it, that family atmosphere, I think it comes from just that hardworking, type of mentality that is just built within the walls of RPI. My relationship with New England is very strong. My wife is from there. My kids were born there. Coach Belichick, he's one of my closest and dearest friends, and I like to keep that relationship private from that standpoint. I think just for me as a competitor, I always want to win. It just happened to be that our first win in Detroit was against New England. I might know that team pretty well, so I might have been able to do a couple things in there that I thought would be successful. But certainly for me, it's, when you're a competitor, you want to beat everybody, and that includes your friends, so that's good too. But, right now in Detroit, we're trying to build something. We're trying to, bring an organization that hasn't had a lot of success to a very high level, and it's a lot of work. It's a great challenge for me. I left an organization that was very successful. I had a really good job there, working with a coach that was, I was really close with, and being able to kind of, see a team grow and develop and dominate for a really long time. The opportunity to go to Detroit was really kind of my own. That's my own opportunity to try to build something and try to start over and create, a successful franchise out there. And it's a challenge, but it's a challenge that I love. It's a challenge that, to me is, why you get into it from a competitive standpoint, at that level to see if you can do it. So the first one was good. It was Patriots, obviously, but it was really just the first win. So, it doesn't really matter who that's against. Honestly, our first game in Detroit was against the Jets, and I was really familiar with the Jets, and my first play as a head coach is a pick six going, in favor of us. And it's one of those deals where I knew what the play was. I told our safety at the time, I'm like, it's going to be a throwback boot, come over here, pick it off and score. And, when you tell a player something like that and it happens and they score, you're like, this is easy, I think it was like 45 points later going the other way. I'm like, this is not so easy anymore. So for us and able to get that first win and kind of move forward from there was critical. I have got married. My wife's from Rhode Island, and then while we were at New England, we have 3 kids. So my 2 oldest are boys. I have 8 and 6, and then my daughter's 4. 4 going on 14, going on 24. Pretty much running my life right now. But our kids they're great. It's fun for my boys are starting to get that age where. They actually kind of know, football a little bit and kind of getting into it. It's humbling at times, I'll say that. I know that, I always say this wrong. I can't remember exactly what Super Bowl it was, but one of the ones, it's either Atlanta or Seattle. Must have been Atlanta. You get your Super Bowl rings and all that stuff. And so I said to my son, I said, well, if you want me to come into school and bring my ring to the class, and Dominic looks at me and goes, no, why would I want you to do that? Like, I don't want you to come to school. So you have those moments. Interesting now, I kid all the time. I'm really bad with video games. You guys probably play this stuff like the EA Sports, like all that, right? So I'm in the video game, which is cool. And then my kids have like an iPad version, and I go and they're like, Dad, you got to see my team. Check this out. And I'm like, okay, cool. And I'm looking at the defensive guys and the offense. I'm like, oh, he's good. And I'm looking, I'm like, why is Anthony Lynn your head coach? Like, buddy, you got anything? And so they keep it in perspective. Yeah, they do. I would say this, my wife is amazing. She's phenomenal. She handles so much of everything so that I can do what I do. When I'm working 20-hour days, 7 days a week for 6 months, 7 months straight, there's a huge sacrifice, a huge hit that goes to your family, and she's the one that's making up for that. There's really cool moments that when I get to see stuff through my kids' eyes that are awesome, and then there's those moments where you come home and your son doesn't understand why he's getting picked on at school because of what you do, and those are moments that are really humbling and bring you, really down as a parent. So, you try to balance all of it. We're certainly, it's not a normal lifestyle, I don't get to see my kids that much, but when you do, you try to maximize every, ounce of time that you have with them. So I think that's really kind of the perspective of change that, I'm still adjusting to from that standpoint, especially the older they get, where, you come home and you're like, God, like, how did you get so big and what just happened in the last 6 months, So, but very blessed from the standpoint that really my wife, she does an amazing job of handling all that. So your parents are both teachers. So I rode to work with my dad every day, which had good points and a lot of bad points, especially if, maybe the day before in school didn't go so well. He was on me the entire way. It's definitely different for me to, I would say with my oldest son, especially with the success we had in New England, I'm a very private person. I was very private, and he's kind of that way. He's very protective of what I do, and he's also the one that kind of had the first experience of kind of, being bullied, being picked on, and having to deal with that at school. So he's very private about that. My other son, who's 2 years behind him, he's the one that we could be walking into any restaurant and he's going to go, my dad's the head coach for the Lions. And, so it's just a complete opposite from that aspect of it, of how to handle it. But, the number one thing we're trying to just obviously get everybody, and get our kids to understand is, there's a huge humility or humble part to, who we are. We're very grateful. We're very blessed. We're very lucky to have had the opportunities and the success that we had. And that's really the important part of it. But I would say that's not different or unlike anything that my parents taught me to. I think those lessons are the same. Maybe situations change a little bit. I would say this, probably just the fact of the importance of all the stuff that you really are learning, like I talked about, outside the classroom. It's critical, and maybe I'm a big note taker, right? So coming to RPI, probably like a lot of you, didn't take a lot of notes in high school, kind of was good, like everything was cool. I got to this place and it like humbled me right away. And I was like, okay, I got to get myself together here. I got to take notes. I got to be detail. I wish there was a lot more of my time here that from that standpoint that I remembered and took notes on and was able to reflect on quicker when I got out of school. A lot of the stuff that, as I got into coaching, I know I was doing engineering right away, but as I got into coaching and trying to, team build and problem solve and get back into this competitive world of sports, I wish I had taken more detailed notes back then of that. The relationships, very blessed to have the friends that I have from RPI. They're some of the closest people to me in the entire world. A lot of them are, they're my brothers, they're my family. Last year we had, I think it was 33 guys come out, it was actually that Patriots game. We had 33 guys come out from RPI with their spouses, and it's just a really cool time. And those bonds that you make here, and the, what you're going through and what you share with the people that are with you every single day here, when you leave here, no one else is going to have those same stories. No one else you're going to be working with or talking to or competing with is going to be like, wait, you pulled how many all-nighters? How long was that test? I'm like, the test was 4.5 hours. They're like, no, I've never taken a 4.5 hour test before. I'm like, yeah, I got a 3. They're like, 3? I'm like, yeah, out of 110, I missed a bonus point too. And like, they're not gonna understand that at all. They're not gonna know that also can get you a C, because you can figure out that curve. But, that's part of it that's just gonna stick with you forever, and those bonds and all that stuff, which is, it'll help you all the way through. Teaching was something always that was kind of on my mind. I really enjoyed how we grew up. And again, both my parents were teachers. It was a struggle for them to make ends meet. They figured it out somehow. I actually enjoyed having my dad in school with me every day. My mom, like at one point in my my childhood, we literally loaded up the van and it was my dad, my mom, my sister, and I going to school. And I could walk down the hall. I had my cousin work there too, so I literally walked down the hall and be like, hey mom, hey dad, hey cousin Mary, here's my cousin Stephanie who's in school with me, here's my other cousin. So I enjoyed growing up that way. I come from a large Italian family, and that was really important to me. So I always was drawn to the teaching part of it and my dad was a coach, but I didn't know if, I wanted to design planes. I wanted to, that's why I came to school. I wanted to be a military pilot. I was going to go, shoot things and do that stuff. But the biggest trigger for me, the biggest switch was that first year. So 4 years of undergrad, stay for the 5th year, start my MBA, kind of going the engineering MBA route. I thought that's what I wanted to do. Coach football for that fall. And I remember the exact moment, the player, the play, all of it, when, like I said before, I switched from that constantly being like, I can still do that, I can do that, I can play, to like, look how excited that guy is right there because he made the block that I taught him how to do in this situation. And I was like, I'm so much more happier for him than I ever was for me as a player. And that's when it really flipped for me that I had to coach some way. When I was doing engineering, I was volunteering at high schools, a very large high school in Syracuse. I was volunteering as one of the coaches there. I got into semi-pro football, or big boys pop Warner, really, call it whatever you want. But I was always trying to just stay in the coaching part of it, even while I was doing engineering. Crazier would be probably Malcolm. That whole situation, how that happened, the intensity of that moment, because I was directly involved with, the call. That was nuts. That was one of those deals where, as it was happening, right after it happened, I'm on the headset and I'm like, I'm still going through scenarios in my mind of how they're going to get the ball back, and until like that confetti fell, everyone running down the field until you finally like can release at that moment that you won. That was nuts. The Atlanta one's totally different. The Atlanta one, the way the game went, I never didn't think we were going to win. There's like all the kind of history behind the moment in locker room at halftime and our guys coming out. We had control over the game, how that game played out. But it was so strategic. As the Malcolm one was very emotional, this was like almost like, okay, this is going to happen, then this is going to happen, then this is going to happen. And it was like putting together a puzzle to where then it happened. But I was so focused on the defensive part because, we had to do our part all the way through. And, we had the critical play where Hightower comes off the edge, strip sacks the quarterback, and we get the ball back, and that whole sequence of events that was going on there. And then when they drive down and, we kind of knock them out of field goal range, I was so just in the zone of like this and this and this and this that when the game ended, I literally was like, okay, what the hell just happened? Because I didn't see anything else on the game, and to the point where Josh McDaniels, who's our offensive coordinator, and I are sitting on the bus, and he's kind of looking at me, he's like, what happened on your side? And I'm like, I don't know what happened on your side, and like I didn't even see like Julian's catch. Like I didn't even see that. Like there's just plays that, neither of us even saw in the game, and actually till it was the next day we were flying back home, and I'm watching the game going, oh my God, like I can't believe that just happened or that transpired, because you were just so locked in. And that was like being locked in from the very first play of the start of the second half all the way through. So two totally different games, same crazy, feelings and emotion and amazement, as you go through it. But the absolute craziest was the Malcolm situation. That was nuts. That was just nuts.
Matt, before we wrap up, I want to introduce you to George Marinopoulos. He's our quarterback for the past 3 years. He's got a gift we'd like to present to you.
Thanks.
On behalf of the
nice. All right. I like that.
You coming here. It's been awesome having you.
Thank you.
The team signed this helmet for you. So
that's badass. Thank you so much.
You got your 74 on the back.
Yeah, I love it. There you go.
Yeah.
Thanks so much. I appreciate that. Yeah, thanks. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.